Imagine this. You receive a message from a Nigerian prince. Now, how did a member of the African royalty get your email address, you might ask? That's not important. What is important is that this prince is in a bit of a financial pickle. He must transfer his sizable inheritance out of his country right now, but he needs someone to pay the advance fees for taxes and customs in order to do so. And wouldn't you know it, you're just the person he's been looking for. In exchange for helping him out, he'll be happy to share a large sum of his inheritance with you sometime in the near future. This, of course, is a scam. And I'd say a pretty famous one at that.
Yep.
So if you've been online long enough, you've probably encountered at least one of these schemes that are designed to steal your money and information. And while some may think that the only ones in danger of these phishing schemes are their grandparents, the reality is that these scams are only getting more sophisticated. And they're starting to target a younger crowd than you might expect. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So joining me for this conversation is Emily Chow, Jonathan McKee, and Adam Holtz. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Okay,
Hello.
Emily, we're going to start with you. You recently wrote an On the Radar article about social media phishing. That's phishing with a PH.
Yeah.
Social media phishing that really included kind of a surprising find courtesy of the Wall Street Journal. Would you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so in that article, it was like more than 80% of young people, we're talking, teenagers and young adults,
Okay.
had been fooled by phishing scams on social media. So they weren't necessarily, sending their dollars to some Nigerian prince.
A little different.
Sure.
But they were giving up information about themselves that they probably wouldn't have otherwise. So, yeah.
Okay. So that might maybe surprise some people, but should we be surprised that this is happening on social media platforms?
I mean, I don't think so. I kind of I'm cynical enough that I'm just like, for as long as people have been selling snake oil, there have been phishing scams. You know what I mean?
Well, and imagine it's kind of like our conversations we've had about, the pressure of social influencers. We're like, man, think of how hard it is to be a celebrity adult. How much harder is a young person? I think the same is true with these phishing scams. It is hard to know what to do sometimes in this situation. True story. 3 days ago, I'm at work. I'm looking at something. I'm looking at one of our customers of where I work. And I clicked on the customer's website. When I clicked on the customer's website, this has never happened before, sirens start going off on my computer. Now, my computer didn't have sirens. So there's just sounds coming out of the speakers. They're like, ding, 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 and it's all, warning, you're being hacked. Call Microsoft right away, is what it says.
And let me guess, it put the phone number
and
there.
it puts
for
the phone
Microsoft.
number right on the screen.
Or a handy link.
Now, of course, I know enough to go, I ain't going to call that phone number. But here was the tricky part. It froze my computer.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I was like, I've never had my computer froze before. I couldn't do a thing. So part of me was sitting there going like, well, what do I do? I mean, if I could call the real Microsoft and ask what to do, I would. But all I have is this phone number. And I remember immediately thinking, oh, man, I'm glad this didn't happen to my dad. Because, my dad's age group doesn't know what to do in these situations, and we've all seen The Beekeeper. But so for that, I just was thinking, man, if this is scary for me, how hard is it in the moment with a young person who's on their screen, 11 p.m. They really should be asleep. They've snuck out, they're in their bedroom. They're not supposed to be on the screen. They're under the covers looking at something. And all of a sudden, somebody's asking them for something real quick. In that quick moment, they have to make a decision. Have we equipped them for that decision making?
Yeah, I think that teenagers, like, everything they do on social media is a snap decision. It's like, do I like this or unlike this? Do I watch this video or do I keep scrolling? Do I comment or not comment? Follow, unfollow,
post this?
accept, post. What's the other one I was thinking of? I think of like dating apps especially, where it's just like swipe left, swipe right,
Right.
and they are trained almost to just make these snap decisions. And I think what often happens and why that number was so high with the Wall Street Journal was because they are so attuned to just make a decision right now, fast, just first instinct, that they just hit the button. And then after they've hit it, it's like, oh, wait, that looks a little sketch. oops.
Oopsie.
Like, what do I do now? And like you said, if you're a teenager, you're not even supposed to be on your phone. It's like, well, I can't get
you
mom
can't
and
go
dad.
tell dad. Exactly.
Yeah. So now you're sitting there and you're stressing out and you're trying to figure out how to fix the problem before your parents find out, And I was totally one of those teens, so I sympathize. If I screwed up, I was always like, how do I fix this before my parents find out and I get in trouble? And it always came out that, well, if I had just gone to them from the get-go, I wouldn't have gotten in trouble at all. I got more trouble for lying about it.
Well, and if I could just insert a quick confession here, here's where I really wish in my parenting I was more safe. I felt like I was trying to raise my kids right. I was trying to help them make the right decision. But because I lost my temper with them enough or was so strict or whatever, I think sometimes they'd be like, the last person I'm going to tell is dad because he's going to freak out, right?
Right.
I'm not saying that we need to become that parent who says yes to their kids and lets them do whatever they want. But we could be safe. We could be approachable. We could be a place where they come. And so I don't know, for you listeners, I hope that's something you think about as we're raising our kids in this generation. Learn from my how not to do it. Is how can you create an arena where your kids feel like if something like that happened, that they would be like, hey, I'm going to go talk to mom because I can always talk to her about this.
Yeah. Adam, you talk about it a lot, the importance of fostering communication ahead of time before these things come up so that kids feel like, hey, we can go to mom and dad and tell them what is going on
in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's just an ongoing conversation. Right. And I think my kids are now in their middle to late teen years. So we're not out of the woods, but they're not 8, right? Yeah. And so I think that as your kids get older, you can have a wider level of conversation. But I mean, circling back to the topic at hand, I think that we've got to teach our kids some basic credibility and discernment skills, right? My daughter came and told me the other day, hey, do you know there's really 12 billion people on the planet? And I'm like, no, there's not. You got that on TikTok, right? She kind of looked sheepish. And then, quietly went back to her room with her phone.
Bless her.
Which may or may not have made me the safe parent. But what I have tried to do with my kids is to help them ask those questions. Is this source credible? If it seems unbelievable, it's probably not true. Whether we're talking news, whether we're talking a phishing scam, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Like just some basic common sense. And here's my confession. I can't remember if I've talked about this on the Plugged In show. I actually fell for a scam recently, and it was very expensive. And it was elaborate, it was sophisticated, and it was very credible. It was on my phone. I got a phone call from my phone company saying that, there'd been a security violation, and here's what we had to do to lock it down. And I was out and about. I was running errands, and you get a call from, the fraud department at Verizon, and they say, here's what we got to do. And they immediately tap into your account like they're sitting there at master control, and it was the actual criminals, right?
Yeah.
And I bought somebody in New Jersey 2 iPads. It was expensive. It was painful. Yeah. And my kids have laughed at me, but I think
you're not at the laughing point yet.
No, the scam. No, I'm not, and I never will be. But I share the story because it's not my first rodeo. Right. Yeah. And I look back on what happened. I'm like, well, why did I think this was credible? Well, it came in with a Verizon identifier on the phone. Like they had hijacked a number. Yeah, that was the first thing that made it seem credible. And so we've got to teach our kids, and sometimes we make painful mistakes too. Okay, here's the mistake that I made. Don't do this. Right.
Yeah.
Well, so, and what anyway, awesome that's lesson. My sad story. And if that person in New Jersey is listening,
Shame on
I hope
you.
you're enjoying. I hope you're enjoying the iPads, and I pray for your salvation every day. You
The
thief.
2 iPads. But what a great lesson for them to learn. And it doesn't even need to be said, now don't you do this either. It's just like, hey, here's what happened to me. Hey, what do you guys think? Has something like that ever happened to you? What a great learning experience.
I think
and being vulnerable as parents, sometimes we want to look like we have all the answers. And I also don't really enjoy looking like a rube or an idiot or an easy mark.
Yeah.
But sometimes the teachable moments with our kids are not because they've made a mistake, but because we've made a mistake.
Yeah.
Right? And
Absolutely.
It's true.
I think that there is a conversation to be had there, even if my children now have weaponized it against me. So,
Well,
Emily, what do you think?
I think the big thing here, and this is brought up in that article that we referenced, the biggest thing you have to teach your kids is like, slow down. Adam, your story is actually a perfect example. What did you say?
Yeah.
You were running around, you were doing errands, you
I wasn't
didn't stop
in the middle of it.
to think
Yep.
through it and be like, wait, pause. Let me hang up this phone call and call Verizon back and find out that, like, that's what we should do, you know, in that instance.
Right.
If you had done that, you would have saved yourself the money.
No, I'd have been fine.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you would have been like,
$4,000.
I know, exactly. But we get so caught up in the busyness of it. And as I was mentioning earlier, all those snap decisions.
Yeah.
Take 2 seconds to just pause. Because another thing teenagers do, they like to just be like, if they think something seems fishy, Adam, you already said it. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. That's a cliche for a
probably is.
reason. But you know, kids will sit there and they'll be like, that seems a little fishy. And they'll be like, who posted this? Oh, it's this group I follow. It's my friend. It's whoever. It must be fine. That's not necessarily true because hacking schemes are getting a lot more sophisticated as well. As you said, this was a hijacked Verizon number. So, you know, like if it's that sophisticated, then okay, well, kids, let me just say it. You know how to text, you know how to DM people on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on TikTok. You know how to do all this. If your friend posted it, it seems a little sketch. Text your friend. Did they even post it? Yeah. Or worse still, did they just sit there and get swindled by some phishing scam?
Well,
like
and teach our kids to fact check. You know, I mean, we
Fact
12 billion. You know, hey, have you looked at some credible sources? Have you gone onto a website? You know, you hear a health thing about, oh wow, you know, I can use gasoline to bleach my hair or whatever the newest you know scheme is. Possibly, maybe check out and see what does the Mayo Clinic say about it, you know, or something like that.
And so I want to add to that, and this is back to social media.
Yeah.
When somebody has a social media platform, there is a kind of authority there, right? Mm-hmm. If they have followed them, if they have liked them, if they have listened to them, they are predisposed to believe what that person has to say, even if they're not an expert in that area, and even if they're selling complete snake oil, like we talked about at at the beginning.
Well, you just mentioned how, like, you know, your daughter, she probably got that from a TikTok influencer that she loves, that she trusts, that she's followed their advice before, who didn't fact check before they posted. And they've done studies about that too. It's like 3/4, I think, of influencers don't bother fact checking. They just look at the comments and it's like for whatever reason, teenagers especially, they are prone to just trust that the commenters on these posts will call it out if it's not true. And that's not true. It's like, no, you have to find a legitimate, because all it takes is like for the top comment to be wrong, and it'll just continue to spread the lie. That's literally how this false information becomes so widespread. It's because false information often tends to be more popular. It's more titillating,
and more interesting.
Yes,
you know, it's circulating because it's so fantastical because it's not true.
Yep. And unfortunately,
sometimes the truth is actually boring. So.
Right. I think it's so interesting, just as we're kind of talking through this, even going back to email scams, mail fraud. We've talked about some of the hallmarks of what a scam involves, and we talked about the speed, the expedience, the urgency. You have to act now. Even when you got something in the mail, it was like, well, you better get with us right now, or else you might end up in jail or something like that,
exactly.
right? It's all this urgency. So just kind of wrapping this up for parents, putting it all together. I know we touched on a few of these, but how can parents really help protect their children from phishing attacks? I guess more so in social media is what we're referencing here, but just in general, we talked about slowing down a little bit, fact checking. Are there any other things that you would like to just let parents know, hey, here's something that you can do proactively with your kids?
Man.
Slow
Be
down.
suspicious.
Slow down's the big one. Yeah.
Fact check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't believe everything you see and hear,
Yeah.
right?
Healthy skepticism.
Healthy
is what I'm hearing.
skepticism.
And I think the other thing
a
that we-
hermeneutic of suspicion.
I think the other thing we really talked about here is just creating that climate of comfortable conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's good to be able to talk about these things. Adam, because of the relationship he has with his kids, the fact that they are joking with him about it, as much as that might hurt, it shows that he was able to be vulnerable with them and show them. And my guess is they aren't going to fall for the same type of scam.
No, they're not. They're not.
So if he has these kinds of conversations, where you can, fact checking isn't just fun. And don't forget the fact check. If you guys end up having conversations and stuff, you could really get into like, hey, when it comes to you writing papers and stuff, you guys are going to have sources for that. Where's a good place to find sources? You could have a whole dinner conversation on where to get good sources is. You could have another conversation. And if it's not like hey, kids, you guys are so dumb, listen to smart me. But if it's a safe conversation where you're letting them know, hey, you know what, you're going to make mistakes. And they feel like, hey, I can go to dad or mom if I do make one of these mistakes. And mom and dad are being very proactive, about teaching them these things. These are some of the things we can do.
Yep.
Okay. That's great. Well, thanks for the conversation, guys. I hope this is very helpful to our listeners out there. In June of 1993, moviegoers were welcomed to a secluded island off the coast of Costa Rica. But this small island housed a big secret. Several, in fact. Those secrets? Dinosaurs. I'm speaking, of course, about Jurassic Park, Steven Spielberg's classic summer blockbuster based on the book by author Michael Crichton. Those dinosaurs proved to be pretty bankable, raking in a sauropod-sized load of cash and becoming the highest-grossing film released worldwide at the time. In the years since, filmmakers have returned to the Jurassic Park franchise several times, expanding the franchise's bounds as seen in movies like Jurassic World and its sequels. The next film in the franchise, Jurassic World Rebirth, debuts on July 2nd. The movie seemingly looks to pull the scope of this new dino story from a globe-trotting adventure back to its secluded island roots, but we'll find that out for sure. Will this excursion be a fit for families? Bob Hoos has seen the film, and he's here to tell us about it. Hey, Bob.
Ooh. Hello, Brett.
So first, we'll do our icebreaker in honor of Jurassic Park, the Jurassic
sure,
franchise. Sure. What's your favorite dinosaur, Bob?
I'd probably say the raptor.
The raptor? Why?
She's a clever girl.
Clever girl.
Yeah. I just think it is just about that, especially when you hearken back to Jurassic Park, which was the Jurassic movie, to be frank.
Right. I agree.
When you harken back to that, it was all about. I mean, T-Rex is a big deal.
T-Rex is a big ticket item.
Yeah, but the raptor,
yeah,
there were some cool moments from that.
The raptors kind of became like the main villains almost of the movie around the end. So yeah, so I would.
And in this new one, by the way, they're just sort of nodded to like, yeah, this raptor. Okay.
Interesting. Okay, so they kind of move in a different direction than Old Faithful. So I mean, this is a chalk answer, but I like the T-Rex. I always have growing up. So T-Rex was cool, and I thought it was, looking back, I love the original Jurassic Park movie, but I just think it's kind of funny that they give the T-Rex like the hero moment at the end, right? And if the raptors are the bad guys,
even
the
in
T-Rex
this new
comes in and
film,
saves them.
T-Rex shows up, and to be honest, he's kind of one of the better moments in the film. T-Rex, there's always something special about him, and I think they do take the time to showcase him. And in the various films as we've seen them, a lot of times he'll be actually pretty small compared to some of the gigantic monsters they come up with.
Right.
But he's always got that sort of verve that we go, oh, T-Rex.
Yeah, and that roar really, that
yeah.
sticks with you. Okay, well, so you've seen the film.
Yeah.
Would you just give our listeners kind of a brief description of what this one is about?
Okay, it's some 32 years after InGen first cloned dinosaurs back into the world, and they haven't been faring so well, according to the history as it stands. And there have been disasters, there have been all these different things, and just general environment hasn't been good for the dinosaurs themselves. They only thrive pretty much right there around the equator, in that area where it's sort of tropical, and in the film they say that it's sort of like the atmosphere of what it would have been like 60 million years ago.
Sure.
So that's where they thrive. But the problem is that, again, as InGen has always done, they've had these labs and things in the area.
Genetic experimentation.
And massive disasters happen and people die, and then the world says, do not go there.
Right.
And that's where we are at this point. It's illegal to go into this central area where all the dinosaurs are living.
Okay.
And thriving. However, there's this pharma company that decides that, there are these 3 really mega massive dinosaurs that are there. And if we can get tissue and blood samples from them, we know that we can create this new medication that will help literally 80% of the world's populace in terms of heart disease. So and not only that, but we'll make trillions. But so we want to get in there no matter what it takes.
Yeah.
So they hire this weary mercenary, I guess you would call her.
This is the Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson,
Yep, okay.
which I'll be frank. Scarlett Johansson is very talented, but believing in her as this weary, emotionally wounded mercenary, not so much.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, but they hire her to put this team together.
Yep.
And they're going to send out this scientist, this dinosaur scientist, Loomis is his name. And they also have somebody from their organization going into this little group and send them in there surreptitiously so that no one knows they're doing it. So obviously when you do it that way, nobody also knows you're there if you get
You can't
stuck.
send you help.
That's right.
Right?
So
Yeah.
anyway, they head off. And at the same time, there's also this family. And we're supposed to really want to root for this family, to be honest. It's a dad, 2 daughters, and one of the daughters' boyfriend. And they are, for some reason, sailing a small boat through that very area.
Always a bad
where
idea.
all the massive dinosaurs are, and you think, are you just stupid? What are you doing? Anyway, so those 2 groups, because the family sort of get in trouble, the mercenaries go over and help them, but they all end up sort of crash landing or being stranded on this big island.
Okay.
So their goal is to find those 3 dinosaurs, get their samples, avoid the dinosaurs, and somehow make it home. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially the story.
Okay, so it does sound like after, even though this movie carries the Jurassic World kind of title, it feels like they really did scale back.
And they tried to harken back. In fact, I'll tell you, throughout the film, you can see that. They tried to harken back to Jurassic Park. Mm-hmm. They even hired the guy who wrote the screenplay for Jurassic Park.
David Koepp, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They are. Is it Koepp or Kaup?
I'm not
anyway,
sure. Yeah,
they hired him to come in and write the screenplay for this one. So I know they really wanted to catch lightning in a bottle.
Sure.
And if you want to go on, I'll talk about the pluses and minuses.
Yeah,
here.
please do. Please do.
First of all, the real plus is when you think back to the 1993 film, it still holds up pretty well.
Absolutely.
But you say, okay, maybe some of the CGI isn't as big or as powerful as it is these days. And it is pretty dynamic in this new film.
Okay.
This CGI is so incredibly detailed that you can see every wart on every one of these dinosaurs that are just about ready to eat you.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the sound. I saw the screening in a Dolby Atmos theater.
Okay.
And the sound just pushes you, drives you back into your seat. So that side of the film is really dynamic for people that have seen the Jurassic Park films and Jurassic World films. That side of the film is going to be is going to be appealing. Okay, it's also going to be, if you take younger kids, terrifying. Just so you know, I mean, it's not something that you take an 11-year-old with you just because it's PG-13. You're thinking, no problem.
Well, the original Jurassic Park was pretty scary for especially younger kids.
The original,
there were some tense and frightening
the original
moments,
was terrifying. I remember when they re-released the original as a 3D.
Yes, yeah.
And I went and reviewed it, and they had the big, huge sound systems and everything. And I'll tell you, that film, even though I knew the film by heart almost, going back and seeing it 10 years later, it was, it's like your pulse is just pounding. It's so well made. Spielberg did a fabulous job with that film. Anyway,
he did.
On this one, it's the special effects and the sound effects that are really, really powerful. However, the movie itself, well, let's just say it does not catch lightning in a bottle again.
Okay.
It just doesn't. And a lot of that comes down to the writing, oddly enough.
Okay. All right. So tell us some of the ways it falls flat, maybe.
They basically do not develop characters.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's a lot like a Michael Bay sort of thing, where he says, I want the big bam, the boom, the zam, pow. And they don't worry about the characters because they think all you're there for is to see the robots be destroyed. And that's the same way with this. It's like they're thinking, well, all they really want to do is see these monsters that are as tall as a skyscraper gobble up a helicopter,
Right.
And we see that, but it's, after a while, even the family, for example. That is one of the area where I thought, okay, they've created this family. We don't ever see the mom, but we've got this dad and 2 daughters, and then this teen boy. And you think, okay, they want us to identify with this family.
This is the emotional heart.
Right. They want us to cheer for them, care for them, but they never tell us who they are. And we don't care a whit about them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so after a while, the kids screaming are just kids screaming. And in a way, it becomes annoying. Like, man, I don't want to hear more children screeching over that big dinosaur.
Well, you mentioned, we talked about the original film. You mentioned Spielberg. He can do blockbuster action with the best of them. But one of the things that makes Spielberg special is the heart of the movies that he puts in the film and of the characters. And so in that original film, what made us care about the movie all the way through is we were invested in the characters, right? We didn't want the dinosaurs to eat them, right? These characters had meaningful arcs that we could get behind.
And the new director, Gareth Edwards, is well known for some of the larger films that he's done. He did Godzilla, and he did Rogue One, a Star Wars
Rogue
film.
One, The Creator, I think, was a recent one that came out.
He's done some well-noted films.
Right.
But I'll tell you, he is not Spielberg when it comes to that. When it comes to bringing us in, drawing us in, and helping us care about these people, it really doesn't work. And so there's a lot of action, but there are times when you say, man, I wish I knew some of these people. I wish I could care whether or not they're being gobbled up.
Right.
And by the way, that's another thing for families going in. If they take their children in or whatever, in my count, I think it was like 8, maybe 9 people were killed in this movie.
Okay.
Now, it's not gory and bloody.
PG-13.
It's PG-13. So you don't see a lot of mess splashing the screen.
Right.
And sometimes the kills are behind like these mists and darkness and in the corner. But you do see these monsters gobbling people up. And I'm talking, okay, I'm chewing a cookie, kind of gobbling with my mouth open. They're grabbing these people, and in one case, one of the characters, his arm falls off onto the ground, and it's attached to a bag. That's why, of course, his arm had to come off. But the thing is that it's scary enough, messy enough that parents ought to at least know that's what they're kind of getting in for.
Yeah, there's more of a, and I think this is held true through most all of the Jurassic films that I've seen. There can be a more like visceral to the violence and the action because it's dealing with the dinosaurs attacking people and everything. So talking about some of the content issues, did anything come up that you think in particular, besides the violence, that families should know about? Anything unexpected?
I think the things we've talked about, there's a little bit of language in here, but it's actually, like, compared to a superhero movie, it's kind of light.
Okay.
I mean, there's like maybe 20 instances of foul language. Let's put it that way. Then and S words are sort of the strongest.
I see. Yeah.
Of the lot, but that's not a lot when you think of a PG-13 movie when people are running from dinosaurs, and so I think they sort of reined it in a bit on that sense. And some of them you don't even notice because everybody's screeching and screaming.
Right.
And we plugged in people. We take special note. Oh, wait a minute! I think there was this in there and that's in there. But anyway, I think the things that we've already mentioned, the people being munched and crunched and swallowed and attacked. There's a lot of peril in this, where you've got a variety, because they go for as I said, they were going after these 3 mega dinosaurs. So you see a lot of variety of dinosaurs in this. And there's only one moment where it's almost nice. You know how in the first one there were those moments where they would stop in awe and go, "Oh wow!
Look at these majestic creatures!"
Right, and there is one of those in this.
Okay.
All the rest of the dinosaurs are, "Get me out of here!" Because they're really. In fact, the big part of the one island that they go to is that this used to be a lab, and they intentionally did a lot of mutations on these dinosaurs. Now, the logic behind it didn't make sense because, they were saying, well, after 30 years, people are just bored with dinosaurs. Right. But I think we've spent hundreds of years going to the zoo.
Yeah, people still go to the zoo. I mean,
I think if you saw a big old T-Rex, you'd go, ooh.
I think that would be pretty cool. I would at least think someone would be as excited to see a T-Rex as they would be a hippopotamus or something like that.
But they use that as a justification to create this mega, I don't even know what it's called, this weird mutation of a dinosaur that looks sort of like a T-Rex that is 5 times its normal size, has 2 or 3 extra limbs hanging off here and there, and is then blended in with the head of a whale.
Yeah.
I mean, it is just the most bizarre looking creature you've ever seen, and it's just another chance for the producers to say, well, we'll make it bigger, we'll make it badder, we'll make it scarier.
Yes, which, you know what, is funny because that was a joke in the Jurassic World reboot, was they were making a genetically modified dinosaur, and the joke in the movie was, well, Verizon Wireless presents this new dinosaur and it's bigger, it's badder, it's scarier, right? And it just seems like they can't get away from that concept. Every movie
they don't point to it in this one like that. They just let it loose. Right. So it gobbles up a helicopter and its occupants and things like that.
Okay. So as we're kind of wrapping up here, the original Jurassic Park, critical and commercial success, it's really endured. It's held up over the years, as we talked about. The other films, I would say, in the franchise have definitely varied in quality or critical reception, but they've always seemed to do pretty well at the box office, pretty bankable. What makes this concept so intriguing?
Well, I think it all comes down to that first film. Directed by Steven Spielberg. I mean, even he tried to duplicate what happened in that first film, and he never could.
Yeah, it didn't.
And so he's been like executive producer of all these other films. But there was that special balance in that first film where everything worked. You had this tight script writing. You had great character actors. Right. You had these moments. You were talking about Spielberg's approach as a director. You had these moments where he just stopped and he took time to listen to the sounds, to pay attention to the people, and to draw us in. So all of these different filmmaking elements were somewhat perfectly balanced with that first film.
Right.
And I think they have always been trying to reclaim that again, find that again, and they just haven't been able to do it.
Yeah,
because it's almost impossible when you've got a really, really good film. And I'll be honest, I think that is what keeps driving the people to come back in hopes that maybe, like they're
recapture the magic.
They're calling this one Jurassic World Rebirth.
Right.
Okay, so it's going to happen, guys. We're bringing in the same writer. It's going to happen, but not really.
Not quite. It doesn't. It doesn't nail the wonder and just the scope, the character, the heart, like you said, that the original put together with some pretty amazing special effects, dinosaurs.
Well, and again, I can't emphasize that enough. The special effects and the sound are incredible. Okay. That is the one thing that I can say, ooh, yeah, that's pretty incredible. But I will also note, even with the original, parents need to take a moment. I mean, even if you're going to just watch the original on TV, there are elements in there. I mean, from a plugged-in perspective, we have to point to the fact that these films, the first one, I would say it almost borders on horror. It is so times, intense and it's so violent in some cases. And this one, if you're seeing it in a big theater with a big sound system and all that, it definitely pushes that boundary as well. And don't just go into these things lightly.
Right.
Even the really, really well-made one, because there are elements here that you've got to think of your kids going in.
Absolutely. Well, and there's the natural draw there for kids too. I mean, lot of kids love dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs growing up.
When my son was little, a dinosaur was the thing he wanted.
Right.
When he wanted a gift, he wanted and if I could get him a T-Rex,
right.
Bingo.
So there could be more pressure for parents to feel because their kids are like, I want to see the dinosaur movie, right? There's a TV show I think called Camp Cretaceous, right, that has been more made for a younger audience as well. And so viewers of that may say, well, I want to see this Jurassic World movie kind of a thing. So it's a good point that we should just point out, hey, parents, just be careful, consider it with the age of your child and what they can handle.
That just because they're cool, and they are.
They are.
Let's face it, dinosaurs are cool for all ages, but that doesn't mean that you should drag the kids in because you've got to be careful.
Right. Maybe wait a few years.
You want them to sleep at night.
Right, exactly. Okay, Bob. Well, thank you so much for giving us kind of this update on Jurassic World Rebirth, and we'll talk again soon.
My pleasure.
All right, now it's the time of the show for our game section, which this time around is Name That Movie.
Oh, cool.
So the rules here, as some of our listeners might be familiar with, you'll need to think of a movie and come up with a one-sentence description of that movie that might or might not help everyone figure out what it is. And, make sure to give us a couple of hints, too, if we're having a difficult time thinking through it. Whatever movie you pick, it has to involve fishing in some way. It's fishing with an F, not a PH, but just in honor of our conversation. We're gonna have movies that involve fishing. So who wants to go first?
Well, I got to go before Adam because he and I are gonna use the same film. So I got to try to beat him before he uses it. So there we go.
I guess we'll see. Right?
Okay, so here we go. Ready? 3 guys go fishing, but brought the wrong equipment.
Jaws.
Well, as soon as I said Adam and I were they're gonna need a bigger boat.
So you got that right away.
I'll go next.
Okay.
Mine is actually it's actually 4 sentences, but they're very short.
Okay.
So it's gonna feel like 4 sentences. Got a problem with a fish, you say? Roy Scheider isn't available? The fish is how big? Oh, well, there's only one man for that job. Jason Statham.
Okay.
I love the fact he just gave us a clue, right? I mean, he just laid it out right there. But was it Meg 1 or 2?
Right, I guess that's...
you can either one actually works.
Okay,
Meg 1 or... I will accept both answers.
All right.
Meg 1 and
the Meg 1 or
2.
the Meg 2. Okay.
This is like Shark Week right around the corner, too, just to bring this all.
It's coming up. It's coming up.
What's your shark film?
Emily?
All right. Here's my fishing film. All right. A little girl adopts a sea lion and soon learns the pros and cons of such an action.
I don't know any Ceylon movies. Is that the one with
man.
Morgan Freeman and the one with no tail?
No.
Oh, I can just almost picture like a VHS cover of
It's
this.
based on a
movie.
true story.
I'm serious.
Took place in the 60s, but it was made in the 90s.
Yep.
My
That's why
memory
it's a
is
VHS
my
cover.
memory is fuzzy. No, wait, that's just a VHS resolution.
The little girl, when she grew up, became Napoleon Dynamite's best friend's girlfriend.
See, I'm stuck.
That was a
because
hint to you.
I'm stuck. I'm thinking Flipper, but that was the one with the
No,
dolphin.
That's a dolphin. Andre is the name of the
Andre.
movie.
Okay, yes.
It's
Andre.
based on a true
Wait,
story.
So
They-
Summer, best friend's girlfriend? Wait, Pedro's girlfriend? Wait, or his brother's? Wait, how is
Yeah.
I want to figure out which.
You
who
didn't
is
realize
Napoleon's-
you didn't realize the Sea Lion and Napoleon Dynamite connection was so strong.
Well, I was just trying to follow it. Napoleon's best friend, Pedro, right?
yeah.
Girlfriend. So
Yeah.
who he asked?
Didn't I thought-
Summer? He asked Summer.
No, the
out.
girl with the side ponytail.
Oh, okay.
She was kind of
yeah.
Napoleon's
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Oh, was she
friend, kind of girl.
I don't
Deb.
remember.
Deb.
I don't
I
remember.
knew
the
who you
one
were
who
talking
left all
about.
the
That's
crap
right.
on the porch.
The really awesome girl character in the
Deb.
movie.
Deb.
Okay.
Deb.
All right. Nice. Andre. All right. Yeah, I just had Flipper on the brain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good movie.
Here's
Really
m-
good movie.
Here's mine. A pair of bumbling fishermen take a disaster-filled trip to the Florida Everglades, which includes getting struck by lightning, fighting an alligator, and foiling a master criminal.
Feels like an Adam Sandler flick.
And I'll if you
or
don't
Jo-
have a
or
guess, I'll
John
let you
Candy.
know. Actually, Joe Pesci and Danny Glover starred in
Was it
this.
called Fishing Trip or something like that?
Almost. You're close.
was.
I want to watch
I
it just
totally
based on
didn't-
that cast. I want to
totally
watch
didn't-
it.
You're
see it, but
close.
I
It's a
just-
silly movie, comedy movie.
I got nothing.
Okay.
I got nothing.
All right. This
got
this
nothing.
might have been too deep of a pull, but this was a fun one in my household growing up. Gone Fishing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Gone
Gone. I never saw
Fishing.
it. Was it worth seeing?
I really like it. A lot of
think
I don't
I'm-
think it's reviewed very well, but
I mean, I liked
it
Ernest
was-
Goes to
it was a
Jail.
lot of
So
funny.
I mean,
this is right up your alley. then.
okay, that's good. That's perfect. That's perfect.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. That will do it for this episode of the Plugged In Show. To our listeners, we hope you found this discussion helpful. We'd love to hear from you. Have you encountered some particularly nefarious phishing scams on social media or elsewhere? And do you plan to see Jurassic World Rebirth? Are you tired of Jurassic movies, or do you want to see more? Let us know through our Plugged In social channels, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or send us an email at team@thepluggedinshow.com. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on The Plugged In Show.